Hi there. This is my first YouTube video in English and primarily a test. Nevertheless, my question is, do ants talk? And consequently, if they do, does the Quran then predict a modern scientific fact virtually unknown of in Muhammad's era and only recently discovered through modern scientific investigation? That's the question. Now that's what Muslim apologists want you to believe, and there are numerous similar claims. In fact, Osam Abdallah makes this claim. I'll just read it to you. He says, the Holy Book certainly stood the test of time 1500 years ago with its claims, prophecies, a miraculous language, eloquence. And it does again and again in our day today with its overwhelming agreement with science and discoveries that were not known to man 1500 years ago. Okay, let's apply this to the Quranic miraculous reference to the talking ant. And the passage they quote reads this. It says, when they approached the valley of the ants, one ant said, "O you ants, go into your homes, lest you get crushed by Solomon and his soldier." That's Surah 27, verse 18-19. Now, is this miraculous? We do know through scientific investigation that ants do communication by sounds. That's a fact, and they're able to send different signals to other ants by a variety of sounds. And Muslim apologists, they have utilized this discovery as an attempt to confirm this Quranic passage as a miracle. However, and disappointingly, the discovery does not confirm that ants talk as they want you to believe, but rather the ants communicate by sounds caused by the rubbing of body parts. Slightly different from communicating, verbally like we human beings do. Now, this passage here, first of all, it's beyond me how this ant even knew Solomon by name. Maybe God has his prophets among the bugs. We don't know. Maybe they know more about our life than we think. It sounds more like the B movie. I don't know if you've seen that. But now comes the point. Even if ants talk, even if we should discover that ants talk, would that support the Quran that this is a miraculous book? No, it doesn't. Why? Because the whole idea of talking ants, that idea or that concept flourished long prior to the rise of Islam. In fact, the ancient society was obsessed by ants, and they ascribed to ants all sort of human abilities. And it's true, ants are remarkable. One of these abilities was, talking ants. I'm going to read a passage from a Christian book from the 3rd century. This is more than 300 years prior to Islam. The author is the renowned Christian philosopher Origen. In his book called Against Celsus, he was a Roman philosopher, and it's chapter 84. And as I said, it's written more than 300 years prior to the rise of Islam. And he writes here, for speaking of the ants conversing with one another, he used the following language. And when they meet one another, they enter into conversation, for which they reason. They never mistake their way. Consequently, they possess all full endowment of reason and some common ideas on certain general subjects, and a voice by which they express themselves regarding accidental things. Wow. Yeah. Now, Origen does not believe this. He simply quotes somebody else, I guess Celsus. But anyway, the author was probably Celsus. Now, does that mean that Celsus, who was a godless pagan, was divinely inspired? Well, according to Muslim apologists, he must have been, since he explains the phenomena of the speaking or talking ants in much in-depth details than the Quran. Hence, it should not surprise us that there were, prior to Islam, lots of stories and fables in which animals by nature talk to each other, even ants, like this one, called The Ants and the Grasshopper, a Roman fable, and Celsus himself was a Roman. The fable reads, The ants were spending a fine winter's day drying grain collected in the summertime. A grasshopper, perishing with famine, passed by and earnestly begged for a little food. The ants inquired of him, why did you not treasure up food during the summer? He replied, I had no leisure enough. I passed the days in singing. They then said in derision, if you were foolish enough to sing all the summer, you must dance supperless to bed in the winter. So, do ants talk? This is to just summarize and finish. Do ants talk? Not as far as we know. I guess not. But like other beings, they do communicate. We know that. But if they were to talk, if we should discover in the future that ants actually talk, would that render the Quran miraculous because of that one verse? No, it would not. Unless Celsus and others prior to Islam and the Quran and Muhammad were inspired too, many of them pagans. And I honestly doubt that any Muslim would agree with that. So I leave you to figure this whole thing out for yourself. So, bye for now, and God bless. I will be back. And God bless you all.